warrior. Crimes against children online real time escalating on a daily basis in the United States and also around the globe. I want to know why. I ask this question every single day, and don't you? I know you do. There is a war on for our children, for our youth, for our teens, our precious children. Kevin Branzetti joins us. What an honor to share his voice and expertise. Kevin is the co-founder and CEO of the National Child Protection Task Force. The website is ncptf.org. All of this information will be in the body of this video. Welcome, Kevin Branzetti, to the Warriors.
Well, thank you, Lynn. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Well, first, we are going to share some of your incredible history in law enforcement. I am so honored that you are with me today. It is Easter weekend, that you're taking the time, you're joining me to raise awareness, share knowledge, resources with the public. So let me just jump right in with some of it. Kevin Branzetti spent 22 years specializing in terrorism and violent extremism with the NYPD, later joining the Manhattan District Attorney's Office for another 7 incredible years. At the Manhattan DA's office, he led major investigations into the areas including terrorism, violent extremism, and cybercrime. Oh, we're going to get into that today, Kevin. He ended his NYPD journey in the Intelligence Bureau as the commanding officer of the Cyber Intelligence Unit, where he pioneered the development of a groundbreaking terrorist targeting program. Globally, he is well respected. He shared his online investigation know-how. He does it now with the police worldwide. He has worked closely with major social media companies. He has created, now listen to this, solutions, everybody. This is what we need, solutions. We know it's all bad. We need attainable solutions. Kevin's mission is to protect children. Let's jump right in. Kevin, first of all, I have to say, thank you for your incredible service. I mean, I live in New York City, and we know how tough the job is. Thank you for your dedication and commitment from the bottom of my heart for keeping all of us safe. I just want to start with that because incredible. You are an incredible warrior. So we're going to start right there. Now,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Kevin, of course, I know because you shared with me, you grew up in Queens. Before we jump in, let's hear a little bit about you. What do you want to share with us? Anything you want about Kevin Branzetti.
Oh, anything I want. Well, I mean,
I caught you off guard. I caught you off guard with that one.
It caught me off guard with that because you gave the intro, the background, which makes me not want to give my version of the background. But I can give you the background of the NCPTF and why we're here.
You can do anything you want. This is all about you. I want to hear a little bit about you. Let me ask you something. Let's start with why law enforcement. What got you going? Why did you want to be a member of law enforcement?
I'd love to have a really good story and tell you it was a calling in life. But you want the honest truth? I grew up in a neighborhood where everybody took all of the civil service tests, and which one called you, you kind of took as a job. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you it was a calling and I wanted to be it since I was little, but I will tell you it became a calling. It became became my life, right? I will bleed blue till the day I die. That's where I stand.
You know what? Honesty is the best. I like that. I like that. I like that a lot. I like that, but what I like even better, Kevin, is that it became this calling. It became Absolutely. Your life. So that is that's incredible to share, especially with our young people. We need to empower them, and we need to tell them realistically, what's going on or jobs you can attain and where you can end up. We'll leave that for a little bit later on. Okay, now tell us about the creation of the National Child Protection Task Force. It's much needed. How did it come about? The floor is yours.
It came about almost 6 years ago. It'd be 6 years this April. Mm-hmm. I went to a cybercrime conference in Massachusetts, and I sat in on a class of a missing 14-year-old autistic girl. So this is the typical case we work on in the task force. It's kid meets creepy guy online, disappears, runs away with him. So kid goes to bed, 14, mom, dad go to bed, wake up, child's gone. They're 10 days into this missing child. Local police, state police, FBI, everybody's trying, can't find her. there's a gentleman, it's just because it happened in Arkansas. There's a prosecutor in Arkansas who wrote multiple books on cellular tracking. This is a few years ago. And he asked them, so let me just take a look. Let me look at what Verizon, what AT&T, what the companies gave you. And they gave it to him, and he looked through it, and he's like, all right. When after they took her from the house, they picked up her at the house, they drove to this hotel, went to this airport, Seattle airport, this house, and the guy's name is Johnny. And he was right. And this blew my mind. How could local PD, state police, FBI, everybody, federal agents, how could they get it wrong? Not see it? And the answer is real simple in the end. None of us. I was NYPD. I've worked with federal entities. I've worked with small departments. No law enforcement agency can keep up with technology. The changes are so fast, and there's no system in place to teach us. Verizon changed they went from 3G to LTE or 4 to 5G. There's new processes. Every company constantly has new processes and new things. We can't keep up with it. That's the biggest gap which we try to fill. So what we do is we started to do from the beginning was we brought in friends. I have friends at this company. John has friends at this company. Sally has friends at that company. We brought them all in, said we want to help more with missing kid cases. And then the next kid case came in. We have a bunch of people on call. Kids home in hours. Next one, kids home same day. Kids home same day. And we went from helping with several to dozens to hundreds. To last year, we helped with 2,500 cases. Now, there's other things besides missing and trafficked kids. We're helping with child exploitation. We help with some homicide cases, but that's the numbers. It went from word of mouth to 2,500 a year as our basis of doing things.
Wow. I mean, incredible. Is it true, Kevin? I'm always reading different stats and studies, but one never knows what's exactly true. It might fall into the number, but I always hear if you can't really locate or get like private investigators with a missing child, somewhere like within or additional resources, help, manpower within 48 hours, usually that child is not found. Have you heard things like this? Like you don't know. There's so much information out there. What's true, what's not true.
It's a mixed bag. And my answer to that is, I don't care the stat in the end result. I will tell you, undoubtedly, every day a kid is gone, the odds of that kid getting assaulted, raped, trafficked, murdered, criminalized, becoming a criminal, goes up exponentially every single day, period. We could sit and kind of gauge numbers, and it's very, very difficult. That's an undoubtable thing. So in the end, yeah, we need to find them very quickly. They need the resources very quickly. Get them home, find out why they left. Let's fix some problems, right? Because that's a symptom. Child leaving a home is a symptom of something going on. We need to then fix that. And that's the other blind spot we have in our society. Yes. We don't have a system for helping that kid when we bring them home.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Kevin, because I call it a protocol. I don't know if it's called that, but we preach, we talk, all of us collectively doing this work, educating parents, grandparents, family members. But I'm so worried, Kevin, about these kids who, for instance, have to run away. They're abused at home, psychologically, sexually. They're out there, as you pointed out, within hours. These predators are very smart. I mean, I'm in the middle of New York City. When I walk past the Port Authority, Kevin, I'm like, that one's waiting for a child. That one's waiting. I can almost see that. It's terrible. This is how I walk down the street now. I count children. Is that one abused? Is this one? So what I want to ask you, that's where I'm having lately a bit of a questioning myself. What do we do with those children who don't have a safe home to go home towards? We know the foster care, again, another program. I digress here a little bit. I don't know one person, Kevin. I do a lot of work behind the scenes. My age, 20s, 30s, 40s, who hasn't told me, and they don't know each other, they haven't been re-victimized through the foster care system. So then I'm thinking lately, where do we put these kids or these teens? Like, how do we really keep them safe? I don't know. Do you have any answers for like what we should be working towards? Obviously, resources, more homes for children that are well vetted. That's the problem. A little bit of the problem I'm having right now. I'm like, this is great for for a child we can bring to a safe, back to their parents.
Sure.
But what
Sure.
about all these kids that are trafficked and nobody's looking for, and where are we going to put them?
Yeah. So foster care, we need a system of more good people becoming foster parents. I've thought about that at some point, maybe in my life. Can I start, right? Can we all start? That's the first thing. You got to get more people, good people doing it. There are a lot of good people in foster care. There are a lot of good parents out there. You don't hear about it because they're not doing anything wrong. Why would you hear?
Yes.
So that part. The other part is what I sort of started to mention before. We have to have a system of, when that child's recovered from missing, who's in charge? We like the child advocacy centers. The child advocacy centers are used for crimes against children, to start those interviews and the help and the therapy. They're, like everything else, understaffed, underfunded, undersized. But that's the place, I think, for them. I think when we bring that kid home, law enforcement can find kids. But law enforcement finds, Mikey who ran away, bring him home today. 3 days later, Mikey runs away again. We find him again. 3 weeks later, again. And law enforcement starts to go, the next time mom calls, like, why am I going? He'll come home. We found him the other 6 times. And it's the complete opposite. Each time that kid goes missing, the danger keeps going up. Mm-hmm. But where do the cops bring them? Is it the police department's responsibility someone's got to visit that child in the home the next day, the next week, the week after? It takes weeks of effort to talk to a human being and say, what's wrong? Nobody's going to tell you when they're in the middle of their episode and their chaos and their drama and their trauma. Like, they're not going to tell you in that spot. It takes time. It takes trust. That kid might not trust adults for good reason, right? And it might be an adult that's hurting them. But we need to change this society of, when are we going to invest in these kids? They're screaming for help. Every time a kid runs away, I've got a couple different analogies, but one is, that is the kid standing at the edge of the George Washington Bridge looking to jump. And we pull him back, and then we give them no resources. And then they go back to the edge of that bridge looking to jump. And we find them again, pull them back. And they keep going. That's not how this works.
Right.
If we grab somebody off the bridge who is going to jump, we're going to grab them and they're going to get help. They're going to get therapy. They're going to have doctors and family and support. We're going to come together. That's what those kids need. And we're missing the ball as a society completely.
So, Kevin, why, as you just laid it out very clearly, why are we missing the ball? We know the answers. You just gave us the answers. Why won't governments, districts, whatever, engage and empower law enforcement and other, healthcare? All of this falls into that, and give them the resources. Why are they allowing this? We have a youth mental health crisis. We all know that, right? Why? These are our precious children, our future adults, our future leaders, of our country. Why are we letting them just flounder like this? And we'll start talking about the internet as well, how it's fueled this. But if we have the answers, why do you think there's such resistance to all of this?
I don't know if it's resistance. I think it's lack of knowledge. I don't think our public officials understand what's going on. I don't think we understand runaways in general. If you think of shows you watched growing up, I can think of shows I watched growing up, people running away. It's always like, I can even go back to old shows. Right? I watched his reruns, the Andy Griffith show. Like, he's got the stick with his things and he's running away. And
I still watch the Andy Griffith show.
Yeah, exactly.
The reruns.
But if you look at shows, that's how we see. Unfortunately, our education comes a lot from what we see on TV. And that's what we think. So we think runaways, we think that. We think it's, they're runaways. They'll be back. They'll be back. They need a timeout. And sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. But there's no question, if we paid attention and treated those kids, sexual assaults on children would go down. Child exploitation would go down. Trafficking would go down dramatically. Addiction would go down. All of these things would go down. And that's what everybody wants. But we kind of, I said, we're missing the big picture here on it's a solvable problem. This isn't the narcotics, like how do we deal with the war on drugs? I was in narcotics. I won't even go into that. It's an impossible fight. This is possible. And this is why we, NCPTF, were so passionate about doing this. And my life, that one presentation changed my entire life. Right? I worked for 20 years, violent extremist cases. I lived it. I taught it. I read on it. That's all I wanted to do. And once my eyes were open, complete 360, my life's done. I will never go back to anything else. It is our kids. That is my mission. That is our mission at the NCPTF. We want to change this dynamic. So how do we get the awakening for others? I don't know. I don't know how do we get the awakening? Doing this, talking.
I was going to say, we're doing a video. And Kevin, I'm like, my goal is one person a day. That's it. I set my goals at one person a day to share information, to listen, to take action, to volunteer, to donate. That is it. But I don't know if the word disagree is the right word, but I don't know. I spend a lot of time in Albany, our state capital in New York, also in DC. There's a lot of noise, as you're well aware, for different bipartisan, pieces of legislation, Keep Kids Safe, COSA right now, Kids Online Safety Act. A lot of people are raising their voices. A lot of people learned during that COVID period when kids were, forced to do school at home, what was happening on the computer. So that was a wake up. If there's anything good that came out of that period, I say that was it, because a lot of parents started saying, hey, what are they learning? Oh, porn is coming through on their Chromebooks. And oh no, it's supposed to be math and things like that. I think there's a lot of noise about it. I don't know why it's not at the top of the list. I do think a lot of our elected officials know about it. I think they just don't prioritize children. I think they're so busy with all the other issues going on, yet we see this escalating as we're sitting here talking. Probably another 5 children were exploited in some fashion.
Sure.
Let me ask you something, since you're decades, and I say you should be very proud of this, in law enforcement. Let's focus on the last decade. How have you seen the internet? Because I always say that's like opening your front door and welcoming strangers in. And most people would never do that. Like, that's the analogy to get people to wake up. And we know it's ugly and dark, all these subjects. So people tend to walk away. They don't want to hear about things unless it happens to them or their child. Then they want to hear about things. What is the biggest changes you've seen, say in the last decade, with the internet, with the work you do, the whole landscape of this exploitation, the trafficking?
Well, the internet's the key, right? It is the key. We, as parents, right? I'm 53 years old, right? We look for,
you're a mere baby.
Thank you. We look for, the predator on the street, and we hover over our kids more in this generation than in previous generations, right? There's no question. We're more involved in our kids' stuff, all that greatness. But we don't pay attention to when we give them a device and we let them walk off. Yes. And we're letting the predator in the household, and we don't realize it. So the internet is that it's the door. It's the door to predators. It's the door also to knowledge and friends and help and fun and laughs. It's everything. But we don't give our kids the tools. All right? You would never send your kid off the first time to go to playground by themselves without giving them tools. Your kid, you send them off to college. You've been giving them tools for years. But when I hand my child this, and usually I use it as a tool to get them to leave me alone so I can cook dinner and give them they sit in there. I didn't give them any tools, as a parent. So that's the difference. We have control as families. We have the ability as law enforcement to find predators easier, for the most part, because of the internet. But we still need our moms and dads being moms and dads. And that's something we're forgetting. This is our responsibility. Right? My responsibility is, if I'm going to give my kid access to the internet, my kid has to have a lesson. And not one lesson. It's multiple, right?
It's daily. I know
Really?
it's a lot to keep up with, but I'm like, you eat, you sleep, you go to school, you go to work, you got to be on top of the internet and what's happening with the apps, with the gaming, with everything. Because as you pointed out earlier, look, the predators are the law lags behind technology. This we know. As you pointed out, law enforcement, these predators are smart. They are 10 steps ahead of everybody. And the bottom line is people, they make money from this because people are always like, why is this happening? What? I'm like, because there's money to be made and a lot of money to be made from all of this. What, right now in 2024, what keeps you up at night with all of this work? Because I'll start you off. What keeps me up at night, and I'm a warrior, is AI, artificial intelligence, and artificial general intelligence. To me, is beyond a nightmare. But what keeps you up at night thinking about all of this?
Technology doesn't do that to me. I actually don't think parenting has changed in 100 years. It's still parenting. So I don't worry about that. What keeps me up at night is the frustration of the lack of knowledge out there. Mm-hmm. Like I said, there's answers to that. This is a fixable problem. It is something we can make a dent in. But how do we get legislators to understand? I think they sometimes, you're right with their sidetracked on other things, and I don't think they don't care about kids. I also think legislators and government in general make things too complicated. They look for the biggest, craziest solutions and put committees and will create agencies and all these things. This isn't that complicated. We can keep it simple and find solutions. You find a kid, you help a kid. Like it's not that complicated of a situation. All right. We can find them. I'll keep saying that. Law enforcement can find them. We just don't have a place to put them.
That's it. Because that is exactly what I hear right from your mouth over and over again. Lynn, where are we going to put them? Lynn, we don't have the resources. Lynn, this, So you're forgetting one thing, Kevin, and you don't have to, you can jump in or not about this one. Big tech, they got a lot of money behind them. They got a lot of money
and a lot of responsibility.
And they've got Section 230, the Communication Decency Act. They say they're a billboard. Basically, it's an easy way to lay it out for the public, and they don't have a responsibility what people post on there. But I think it's, and they also have these lobbyists that get paid, and I kid you not, you may have heard this, Kevin, they get paid sometimes $2,000 an hour. Oh, so, here comes Lynn the warrior who gets paid zero, and, they'll knock me off of my high heels. And that's actually did happen to me one time in Washington. Yeah. And I think, our Congress, doesn't matter left, right, kind of listen to me. They're afraid to deal with big tech. It's just kind of that big, scary money-making machine something. But again, there is a lot of noise lately that things should be perhaps COSA, Kids Online Safety Act, might be the first one. We haven't had, Kevin, since 1998, any kind of child safety legislation. And look how much has changed since then. So it's these people have no excuse. So they've got to know better in Congress. And the parents, like, why do you think they don't? You do a lot of speaking. I do a lot of speaking. I'm in the middle of New York City, as you know. I've had women clutch their chests when I tell them, "Oh, there's sex trafficking happening around the corner." Like, they're in denial. And I'm like, it's in every town, city, and rural area in America. And it happens online. You don't even realize, where it's happening. Why can't they, in your professional law enforcement, why won't they realize this? Because this is my biggest block. Like, they're like, no, you mean the Philippines and Thailand. I'm like, no, I don't. It's happening at gaming consoles,
Because of movies. We watch the
because of the movies.
Taken. We get TikTok videos showing if your car gets marked like this in a parking lot, you've been marked for traffic. All garbage, all lies. Like, none of that's true. We don't know the problems that because our education is bad. It just.
Yeah, we have to get into schools. We have to get into and younger ages too. The teens, it's almost too late. It's like age appropriate, starting in kindergarten, age appropriate, the kind of information, you know. Now, let
And
me ask you, go ahead.
I'll give you another legislative thing, a cheap one, costs no money almost, that we need. Just mandate law enforcement across the country, keep these stats publicly. Keep your missing kids stats publicly, how long they've been missing, ages, sex, race, and the exploitation cases your agency's working on. The child exploitation cases are crazy. Nobody knows. I can go to any police department in the country. I don't know how many burglaries they have, stolen cars. Ask a police chief how many missing kids he has. They don't know. It's not something we're asking. The public can't know if the public can't see it. So, like I said, an easy legislative thing, our governor can make this an executive order, sign it, or mandate all police departments in New York State publicly keep stats on missing kids. The infrastructure exists. Every police department knows how to keep stats, every one of them. And then we can really get a better look at what's there. That's why I said there's simple solutions for these things.
I'm adding that one to my list now, Kevin, of of what needs to be done, because let me ask you another question. I'm adding that to my list. That's actually something to take action. I'm going to start really working hard on. There's different things, and people do ask me this a lot. They'll say in the United States, on any given day, 1,000 kids go missing. Some say 2,000 kids go missing. We don't know if the runaways are rolled into that. What kind of stat is there? Because I want to give sort of appropriate answers to people, and I'm sort of in the dark.
We're all in the dark. Anybody who's telling you they know the stats on the amount of traffic kids, the amount of runaways, the amount of missings, they don't know. And the problem is, like National Center for Missing Exploited Traffic Kids, right? NCPTF, right? We're supposed to give them stats. They don't always get them. Right. They don't get them all. So nobody has all of them. If you report today your kid went missing, your 14-year-old went missing, did that police department file it, or are they holding off because we'll give her a few hours, maybe she'll come home? The stats are they're tough. They're tough to keep. They're tough to know. Nobody actually knows the right number. They don't. The number is too many. I guarantee
one is too many. I'm like,
one is too many.
Because I don't.
Because we know the end result.
Right.
If every kid came home after 4 hours and blew off steam and nothing happened to them, this wouldn't be a problem. That's not what happens.
Well, let me ask you something. What? I have so many questions for you. I'm stopping and thinking, which is a bad thing to do as I'm talking to you. What do you think? So your role, CEO, what are things you need? Let's start with, what do you need from the public? Let's start with, let me back it up. I'm all over the place here, but if a parent right now, somebody's listening, a child runs away, a child's missing, tell me the steps they should take when a child, I hear different things. You call 911 right away. You call, missingkids.org, NCPTF. We've got 1-800 The Lost. We've got all kinds of things floating around. What you tell us, what are the steps a parent should take?
911, always first. 911 is first. The faster we're involved, right, the quicker we can find that kid. Like that, the trail's hot initially, right? So it's 911 first. And yes, I won't lie to you about it either. Not every time you're going to get a cop who's going to be like, we're going to jump on this and look at it. Some of them are going to go, all right, it's 4:30. Your kid didn't come home from school yet. Do we really need to jump on this? And it's a tough one. It's a tough call for a police department to say, we should bring out, the helicopters, all the people for a kid who's an hour and a half late coming home from school. We can't do that every single time. We just can't. The resources don't exist, but you still got to start off with the 911 call. Calling those other orgs, they'll give you some advice. None of them are going to look for your child, right? The only ones who are actually physically going to go look for your child are the police department. We, NCPTF, support police departments. That's our thing. For parents, it's not to call us. You can call me, tell me once in a while, and I'll try, but we only work for police departments. So if you call me, I'm going to ask you, well, who's the police department? Who's the cop? Who's the detective? I'll contact them and I'll help them. And then we'll bring resources to them. We'll bring resources to bear to help them work. But that's it. 911 is still the best place to call.
So let me ask you, okay, so 911, and then when you say you bring resources, you mean you bring your manpower to the table to help with this, boots on the ground, so to speak.
Virtual boots on the ground.
Yeah, boots on the ground.
We're bringing technology, we're bringing friends and resources, and just lots of good people who can help track a phone, find the hidden apps the kid didn't tell mom about, find the Instagram account that they didn't tell mom about, find all those places where clues might exist, so we understand, oh, she was talking to this guy and was talking about leaving. Once the cops know she was talking to a man about leaving, and we have a username, we're going to find him. Like, once we have that lead, we're in, but we got to get to that lead. There's very few people who can hide. I don't care how technically savvy you are on the internet. There's very few who really can hide. There's always somebody smarter out there, and that's who we find. That smarter person. Good.
I like that. Now let me ask you: Are you going around doing speaking?
Yeah, we do speaking. We do, but most of the speaking we're doing is to law enforcement. So we're training law enforcement, teaching them what we have and resources, and connecting people.
What do they share with you? Anything like we haven't covered that, or just they don't have the resources, they don't have the manpower, just that kind of thing?
The resources, the training. To give a quick landscape of how law enforcement is in this country, right? There's 18,000 plus police departments in the U.S. 18,000. The police academies are all very, very similar. Right? There's a pretty good standard. They're all within range of each other. But as years progress and you're in police department, you become an investigator, you become a detective. There's no academy for detectives, and there's no national training for detectives. The way detectives learn, I learned from the senior detective, who learned from the senior detective, learned from the senior detective. That doesn't work with this. You can't teach technology. I can't ask my father and his father to help me with technology. It's not going to work. So that's the problem today. There's no united teaching of investigators across this country. They all learn it ad hoc. They all learn it on the fly. They're good, and there's a lot of good ones out there. We have that opportunity to go out and meet those good ones, so we can befriend them, learn their techniques, their stuff, and share it with the rest, and try to share it with as many cops as we can. But that's the problem. There's no standard across this country for investigators to help teach them, and they want it. Right? It's not like they're fighting. The detectives want to learn. They want to know more. They want to understand technology. They want to understand how to do their cases better. Most of them, if the overwhelming majority, are here because they want to do their job right. And that means finding the truth and putting bad people in jail, and finding and protecting the innocent.
Well, don't get me started. I want to find the bad people. I want to put them in jail, but I want to keep them there, Kevin.
Wow.
That's another program. Sorry, I just couldn't help myself with that one. But that's another. I just want to. Something I'm worried about is, here in New York State, and it's flying under the radar. It's been going on the last couple of years. They do want to legalize pimping, trafficking, brothel owning. Now, of course, they call it legalizing prostitution, but we know, the Warriors, we work with a lot of groups, both parties, all kinds of people, that the demand is for children. We know this. And we know that this legalizing of prostitution will mean, supply and demand, more children will be trafficked. So we are fighting very hard on this one. They're calling children sex workers, where we fight back. A child cannot consent. They're not a sex worker. No. They can't be called a prostitute because they're a minor. But there's there's a lot of media
we need to raise when it comes to.
So I just want to get that on your agenda, because this is something I'm afraid I'm going to wake up one morning, it's going to be passed. Because all of pretty much, for New York State, they're considering, if it goes through in New York State, other states will follow.
Sure.
So we've been fighting this as a leader. They're calling us a leader in New York State. very, very, we're on top of this, constantly fighting for this. You cannot legalize prostitution because most people will say to me, that sounds great. Somebody, an adult can, control their own body. They should make their own money. Everybody should stay out of it. We're not talking about adults here. We're talking about actually legalizing pimps and traffickers. And we know the kids are involved heavily with them these days. So I just want to get that on your agenda to keep that out there. Finish us up with maybe some final words. What do you want everyone to know? Because I feel so honored that you're taking the time on this, Easter weekend, holiday weekend, to come on the Warriors and raising awareness and education. It sounds very simple, but Kevin, and I know that is the number one thing people have to hear from us, and hear facts, and especially with your great work. I'm going to just keep telling you, I'm so honored you're with me today. What do you want to tell? No, I really am, because this is a tough business. I did have a calling. I didn't choose this. I started out in the music business. That's where I'm in the entertainment, but I woke up one day and said, this has to stop. And that's how it all happened. What do you want people to know right now? I believe it's the Wild West out there, 2024. Give us some final words.
So I'll give you I'm going to throw two things at you. So one is for parents. Parenting has not changed in 1,000 years. Technology hasn't actually changed it that much. Parenting is still about being present with your kids. Have dinner every night with your kids from when they're young to they're older, till they leave the home, and still invite them back to dinner. That dinner time conversation is meaningful. It doesn't always have to be serious conversation. You can have fun conversation. You can have movie night at the dinner table once in a while too. Like, you can have all these things. But you got to have these conversations. You got to have conversations. Tell me about, what you've learned on your phone, what you've seen. Has anybody contacted you? How's that going? How are your friends? Are your friends okay? Have conversations. It's no different than it was for me growing up, you growing up, anybody else growing up. And we kind of let technology scare us as parents and go, there's too much, it's out of control. It's not out of control. Be a parent, sit with your kids every night, have dinner. You have given them the biggest tool you could ever give in their entire life to protect them. And that's the starting point. The second is, if you have an opportunity, come out and support us. You can find us online. I'm wearing my Protector t-shirt. That's our new campaign within the org, is to be a protector. So we're hoping to push that out. I would love to say, and this is the hardest thing for me to say during this whole discussion, I would love to say we can do this all for free, but it takes money. It takes money. There's just no way around this. So for people, if you have that opportunity, visit the website, and if you can, it's truly appreciated.
That wasn't so hard, but you stole my words, because I was going to say to everybody, listen, it takes money. Yeah. And a lot of people will say to me, well, I don't even want to hear about this. I don't want to know about it. And I'll say, that's fine. You can make a donation. And you've done your part. It sounds a little crass, but Kevin, I just hit them up. Like, if they want to give money, that is the best thing to ensure that you can do your job, with your colleagues, to find kids. Kevin Branzetti, I want to thank you. I'm going to keep saying this to you for your dedication, your commitment, keeping our vulnerable kids safe, or educating. We need family digital partnerships, as you spoke of. I like to say, let's leverage the internet for good. It's not going away. So let's create goodness with it. I don't want it to go away. You don't want it to go away. It's not going away. So we're going to create these family digital partnerships. Yeah. And I want to say, the Warriors, we back you. We back law enforcement 1,000,000%. There's not enough percents for me to say the incredible work that you do. And again, your colleagues as well. And I just want to say, please, God bless you. Stay safe. I want everybody, NCPTF.org. I'm going to have all of this in the body of the video. Donate, because we need this incredible work. This is what truly makes a difference. And Kevin Branzetti, you truly are a warrior. I know we'll speak again soon. Thank you for joining us today.
I appreciate you, Lynn. Have a good weekend.
Yes, you too. Thanks a lot.